Now, an AFP photographer, Saul Loeb, captured some of the most iconic photos from inside the U.S. Capitol when a mob of Donald Trump supporters stormed Congress. In an interview outside Congress the day after, he talks about his eventful day, starting with a security officer telling him how quiet it was in the morning to initially thinking only a dozen protesters made it inside. And finally, what happened when hundreds and hundreds of protesters were streaming into the rotunda from seemingly every direction. Mr. Loeb then describes what it was like inside Nancy Pelosi's highly secure office after it was breached, where he captured a rioter with a foot on a desk and a note left behind that read, "We will not back down."
I think at that point I realized how many people were inside. As I entered, you could just hear the chanting, hear the support for Trump, and see hundreds and hundreds of protesters streaming into the rotunda from seemingly every direction. Super quiet in the morning. In fact, when I went through security in the morning, the officers manning the security checkpoint commented on how quiet it was and how they hoped that the day would stay quiet like that. And obviously it didn't. Commotion and some shouting coming from somewhere outside the room.
You fucking own it! That's right, we own it!
Realized it was on the second floor, so one floor below where I was. When I got down there, there was about a dozen or so protesters talking with Capitol Police right outside the Senate door. And at that point, that was something that was highly unusual. It's very rare to see even one protester inside the Capitol itself. The protesters just sort of kept saying, we're here to stop the steal and disrupt the process, and they wanted to talk to various members of Congress. They were dressed sort of in unusual sort of costumes almost. Some of them had their faces painted and the bodies painted and wearing like Viking hats, and as well of course different Trump hats and shirts, and they were waving Trump flags. One of them also had a Confederate flag, and was just sort of being disruptive and loud as much as they could. They were sort of in a jovial mood. They were happy to be there. I think they were somewhere they never expected to be. They I think were sort of almost impressed with themselves that they look what we did, look where we are, and I think didn't really expect to be there. Maybe I think everyone was sort of trying to figure out what was going to happen next. I was there for maybe 5 or 8 minutes photographing them and their interactions with the police, and so I sort of realized that maybe this is bigger than just that, and made my way towards the rotunda, which is the center area of the Capitol. And I think at that point I realized how many people were inside, which is sort of mystifying as to here's one of the most secure buildings in Washington, and here you see like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of protesters basically doing whatever they want. Standing on benches, taking pictures with the statues, climbing on the statues, putting hats on the statues, just generally being loud and disruptive. I tried to make my way back towards the Senate chamber, but the main hallway there was blocked, and there was a thick smell of tear gas or pepper spray in the air. So I turned around and went towards the House side, and sort of encountered the same thing. Close to where the House floor is where Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office was, and I started seeing that protesters were going into her office. And this is, it's a highly secure area. This is the third in line to the presidency, and normally nobody can go into her office at all without an appointment. And there's usually Capitol Police standing outside to control access and everything. And in this case, just anybody could wander in there and do whatever they wanted in her office. So I followed some protesters in there, found some people that were wearing MAGA hats that were sitting in various desks that are staffers. They were taking selfies. They were streaming videos on their social media sites or whatever, and just sort of going through her office and looking at all of her things, looking at the mementos, just looking through drawers, just checking everything out. And that's when I encountered one of the protesters sitting in a staffer's desk and just putting his feet up and just sort of looking through her papers, and that's the picture that a lot of people have seen now. It seemed to me a large period of time when I didn't really see any police presence at all inside the Capitol and inside the rotunda. It was a while before I would see police again, and then I sort of, you could see them trying to protect the two chambers, the Senate chamber and the House chamber, which I think became the priority. And then after a while, you sort of saw the SWAT teams that would start to clear the area floor by floor, room by room. For a while there, it definitely seemed like the protesters had complete control of the first floor of the building, or at least most of the first floor of the building. They could go wherever they wanted. They could do whatever they wanted to do. It seemed like from inside, anyone that wanted to come in could come in. Literally everywhere I looked, it seemed like protesters were streaming into the building. And there must have been at least several thousand protesters inside the first floor of the building at the peak of the situation. Myself and a colleague encountered one of the SWAT teams that was going from room to room to start clearing the building of protesters, and they sort of ordered us to shelter in place into a nearby office, which we did, and we were in there for probably about 40 minutes until another team of police came, found us, and escorted us to another secure location on Capitol Hill. Once they cleared out the protesters, they eventually re-secured the building, and then we got word that the Senate and the House would reconvene to complete their debate about the disputed electors. And then after that was completed, they would resume their joint session. And so then my job continued to photograph the joint session, which was my primary assignment for the day before the protesting happened. And so I was here doing that, and then they finally wrapped up and declared Joe Biden the winner. I think it was probably about 3:30 a.m.
The report we make is that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be the president and the vice president according to the ballots that have been given to us.